You're a host with lots and lots of stays, so you probably know exactly what actually makes guests happy and what kills bookings, even when the property is epic. And here's the best bit. Most hosts think that they need a better algorithm hack to get more bookings. But in reality, the algorithm is just following one thing: guest satisfaction. When guests are happier, they leave better reviews. They complain less, and Airbnb shows you more. So in this video, I'm going to show you the 8 Airbnb must-haves that reliably increase guest satisfaction, and as a result, you get more bookings. Starting with the one upgrade that instantly makes your place feel more premium without changing the decor at all. There's a moment that happens in every stay where the guest decides whether your place feels premium or cheap. And usually it's not your decor, it's when they get into bed. The problem is that a lot of Airbnb still treat the bed like a checkbox. They think it's a bed, it's fine. And then they wonder why they keep getting 4 stars with comments like, nice place. But they don't get anything enthusiastic. Think of it like this. You can have the nicest restaurant in the world, but if the chair is uncomfortable, you don't leave thinking about the food, you leave thinking about your bad back. A king bed works because it's a shortcut to value. It singles comfort before they've even slept. And it reduces the chances of the number one silent complaint, I didn't sleep well. So the fix is very, very, very simple. If you can fit a king bed in the main room, do it. If you can't, then at least make the bed choice feel intentional, not like whatever you found the cheapest online. And the same goes for your pillows. Offer different pillows for different guests. Have the hard, have the soft, because the pillow is so important. But a king bed and your pillows in most markets is one of the cleanest upgrades you can make for better reviews and better conversion. And once the guest feels like you've nailed comfort, the next thing that they judge you is whether you've thought about real life. There's a specific type of guest frustration that never shows up in your messages, but it absolutely shows up in your reviews. It's when something small happens and the guest can't fix it themselves. They spill a drink, the bin bag leaks, the bathroom mirror fogs up and looks gross. It's suddenly standing there thinking, right, well, what now? The problem is that most of you hide all cleaning supplies like they're contraband because they're scared that guests will mess about with them. But what that creates is the exact opposite of trust. It creates the feeling that the property is fragile or the host has set it up for a show and not for living. A good hotel doesn't make you beg for a towel or hunt for the basic supplies. It quietly gives you what you need so you never feel embarrassed about normal human mess. So the fix is not complicated. It's very simple. You create a small, clearly labeled cleaning cupboard or basket that includes the basics. I mean, we're talking kitchen roll, disinfectant wipes, a bin bag, a sponge, a washing up liquid, and a basic bathroom spray. You're not inviting chaos with that. You're preventing that slow buildup of annoyance that turns into a review like, we couldn't find anything to clean up. Once that guest feels like your place is practical, not precious, you can level up the things that turn into a decent stay into a genuinely comfortable one. You can get away with a lot in short-term rentals, but you cannot get away with the bedding that feels like it belongs in a student flat. The problem is that most guests might not message you to complain about scratchy sheets or, again, flat pillows, but they do something worse. They sleep badly and then they judge everything more harshly because they're tired. And there's a reason hotels obsess over bedding. It's not because they're passionate about thread count as a concept. It's because sleep is the core product. If the sleep is bad, the stay is bad. So your solution is to stop buying the cheap sets and start buying bedding that feels consistent. You want decent pillows that actually hold their shape, a duvet that feels full rather than limp, and bedding that feels clean and crisp rather than thin and tired. Even if your property is a modest one, good bedding makes the stay feel cared for, and cared for is what guests describe in 5-star reviews. And once you've improved sleep, you move to the first moment of the morning, which is where guests decide whether you're thoughtful or functional. Guests do not expect luxury. What they do expect is not to wake up on day one and realize they can't even make a decent coffee. The problem is that mornings are when the guests are most emotionally sensitive. They haven't settled in yet. They're still deciding if they like this place or not. So the first morning starts with disappointment. The tone drops instantly. You've probably experienced this yourself. You stay somewhere, you wake up and you go to make a drink and there's nothing, or a sad jar of instant coffee that looks like it's been there since 2019. It's not just about the coffee, it's the signal it sends. The host didn't think about you. So to fix, create a coffee station that looks deliberate. It means a cafetiere with decent ground coffee. But either way, you include the obvious extras, enough pods for the stay and a little bit more, a decaf option, maybe tea, sugar, sweetener, and something resembling a proper milk option. The point is that the guest wakes up and thinks, this is easy. Not right, I've got to go to the shop immediately. And once the first morning feels smooth, the next thing that quietly decides guest satisfaction is that they can see what they're doing without squinting. Now this sounds minor, and to remember that most people take more photos of themselves than they do of your sofa. The problem is that a lot of Airbnbs have lighting that is technically there, but it's grim. It's a single ceiling bulb, harsh shadows, and mirrors that are either tiny or placed in the worst possible spot. And when guests can't do their hair properly or their makeup looks odd and they can't even see in the bathroom properly, it creates this constant low-level irritation. It doesn't feel like a problem, but it absolutely affects how they rate the place because it feels inconvenient. Think of it like trying to get ready for a wedding in a dim car park. You can do it, but you'll be annoyed the whole time and you remember the annoyance. So the solution is simple. You improve lighting where it matters, bedside lamps that actually give light, a well-lit mirror in the bathroom, and ideally one proper mirror in a place where guests can stand back and get ready. If you want bonus points, good lighting near a workspace or dining areas makes the whole property feel warmer and inviting in photos in real life. Once the place feels comfortable and usable, the next thing that separates these average hosts from the top hosts is whether the guest feels lost in your area. Guests don't book an Airbnb just to sleep indoors. They book because they want a trip to feel smooth, and most guests don't want to spend the first evening Googling the best places near me for something to eat, and then they get stuck in those tourist traps. The problem is, when guests feel unsupported in a new area, they start to treat your listing like a risk. They think, if I needed help, would this host actually be useful? And that doubt affects reviews and return bookings. A simple local guide fixes this because it feels like hospitality. It feels like someone has actually lived there and thought about the guest experience. So the solution is to create a short, readable guide that people will actually use. A couple of places to eat, the nearest supermarket, the best coffee spot, 1 or 2 hidden gem suggestions, and a note on transport or parking if that matters. Now you can make it a printed sheet, a QR code to a digital guide, but it has to feel like you wrote it for humans and not like you copied it from TripAdvisor. Once guests feel looked after the property, the next deal breaker is whether the internet is good. Wi-Fi has quietly become one of the most important amenities on Airbnb, not just because guests are obsessed with routers, but because bad Wi-Fi does break the stay. The problem is that the guests might be traveling for work, or they might need maps and tickets, or they might want to stream at night. And if your Wi-Fi is patchy, they don't think the Wi-Fi is bad, they think the host is behind the times. And the brutal part is that guests don't always complain during the stay. They wait until the review because by then it's too late and it feels like a warning to the next guest. So the fix is to treat your internet like a core utility, not an optional extra. Go and get the best package possible. Test it in every room. And if it drops in the bedrooms, simply go and add a mesh system or an extender. Then make access easy. Put the Wi-Fi details somewhere obvious, not buried in a message thread. And for bonus points, make the password super simple. It can be something as easy as book direct. Once the basics are sorted, there's one final must-have that quietly determines whether your whole business is stable or constantly on the edge. A lot of hosts think their problems come from the algorithm or pricing. In reality, a huge number of hosting businesses die because cleanliness becomes inconsistent. The problem is that you can survive one bad review in a slow month. During competitive months, one cleanliness complaint can knock your conversion, which knocks your ranking, which knocks your bookings. It is a simple chain reaction. And the reason this happens is simple. Most hosts don't have a reliable, consistent cleaning setup. They have someone who is usually fine until they aren't. And then you're dealing with late cleans, missed basics, hairs in the bathroom, and guests arriving to a property that doesn't feel fresh. This is why hotels don't wing the housekeeping. They standardize it because cleanliness is a non-negotiable. So the solution is to treat your cleaner like part of your business, not just a helper. You find someone reliable, you pay them properly, you give them a checklist, and you make the standard clear. If you cannot find one cleaner, you build a backup because the cleaner isn't a cost, they're a protection system for your reviews. And if you want more bookings in 2026, you don't need another algorithm hack. You need guests to leave happier more often, because Airbnb is always going to reward the listings that create the best outcomes. So take these 8 must-haves, pick the 2 you're the weakest on, and go and fix them as soon as possible. Trust me, you'll feel the difference in the reviews and the bookings, because that is just simply how the platforms work. And if you want to know the issues with your listing and how the algorithm is working against you, watch this next video to fix your listing whilst you still can.